The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. My name's Mike Nudd, Project Manager here at in Clarity. If you're here listening to me now, then you've signed up to join this latest webinar, just to hear me talk a little bit about our Receptionist product. Part of an ongoing series of webinars I've been doing just to refresh awareness of some of our products, some of our features. What I'll do today is just talk a little bit about this particular product and just do a sort of a step-by-step walkthrough, very similar to the PDF guide that we have for the Receptionist. If for some reason you've not seen that guide, then please get in touch with me or your account manager. We can make sure that gets into your hands. So I guess just a bit of context first. When we talk about receptionists, in terms of customer requirements, a telephony user who's playing that receptionist role can mean a number of different things. That's a separate proposition slightly from the receptionist product on our price list for the capital R. The receptionist user really, their use case is just really to be able to field calls off from a main number and potentially to be able to see who's busy or not in advance to be able to send calls through to the right destination. I mean, in terms of the fielding calls part, I mean, there's a main number could be on auto attendant or just on a regular hunt group, or just register directly on a telephone that still reaches that user. There isn't necessarily a need for more advanced features, but yeah, there's quite a number of ways that those calls can be delivered to that user. Also, in respect to seeing other people's statuses, we do operate telephony status viewing in a number of ways on the platform here. The one simple method is actually physically on the telephone. If you take one of our IP handsets that supports what we call busy lamp field line monitoring, you can enable one or more buttons on the physical phone to watch particular users. Each button is dedicated to a particular user to watch that user and their status, and the buttons, the light status will change if they go busy, so you can tell it that way. That's quite a straightforward, quite a practical solution. However, it's not a particularly scalable solution. It's the physical buttons on, say, on the Polycoms, for example. They do max out. Actually, the manufacturer recommends 24 buttons for the smaller devices and 48 buttons for the larger devices, 500 to 600. And actually, BroadSoft themselves enforce an upper limit of 50 anyway for that type of line monitoring, because of the technology involved, because of the signaling involved, and the amount of traffic load that can potentially put on a single network. There is an upper limit there. A slightly different approach would be to use our BroadSoft Receptionist client, which I'll show you in a moment. Within that client, one of its functions is to show user presence, and I'll give you an example of that in a moment. But again, that is restricted in terms of very large enterprise-type deployments. The software client has a limit of 100 line monitors it can show in the software client. Another approach, a third approach, which actually has no upper limits, is if you take our UC client, which is another bolt-on piece of software. It talks to the switch by API to take user updates directly. Isn't subject to the same signaling restrictions and can actually be set to watch any number of users. So there are three principal ways that you can monitor other people's activity. Only one of which actually involves, say, the receptionist product with the capital R. But say today's focus is on that receptionist product. If I just go into SMT. share this with you so you can see it. So receptionist clients are associated with receptionist subscribers, which are in turn associated with receptionist groups. And really, a lot of the functionality is associated with the group rather than with the individual. However, you'll see that the receptionist user is the billable item on the price list. There is a license, there is a net license cost for the receptionist user for every receptionist that you upgrade. Every subscriber you upgrade to become a receptionist, there's an additional monthly fee. But once that receptionist user is unlocked, they get access to the full range of features that are provided to them as a user through the group they are a part of, and also the receptionist client software that they can launch and have access to. So in terms of management, if I'm looking in SMT to start with, we would build the receptionist group, and in the process of building the group, define the membership of that group. You'll see that there's add receptionist client here. That really means add receptionist group within which you can add clients, or you can review existing clients, existing groups on the left-hand side. So here, I'm just looking at a dummy site and a dummy group that I've created. It's this receptionist group. I can click in to manage this. The receptionist group is like it's a superior feature to a hunt group. It shares a lot of same functionality as a hunt group, kind of like a hunt group on steroids. It does a lot more than, for example, with a normal hunt group. The membership is there's no additional cost. But every member of that group is always going to ring whether they are available or not. They can walk away from their desks. There isn't really any way for them to signal that they're not available. There isn't any way to queue calls to wait for an available person. Whereas one of the properties of the receptionist group is it does come with a queuing element. So here, like a hunt group, I get to define what telephone number is associated with that group, and there's an alpha tag that goes with that group, which is passed to the SIP display of all the members of the group for their incoming calls. In terms of the call delivery, as I say, there's a call queue, so I can define how many calls will be queued within that queue before it considers the queue to be in excess to overflow. And if there are calls in excess of that queue length, that will overflow according to the overflow settings you set underneath. In fact, there's a timer you can set so that calls will time out and overflow regardless of their position in the queue. Bounce here is talking about how calls are bounced between different receptionists. If you nominate multiple receptionists simultaneously, then that's how it will hunt between the available receptionists. If I go to operators, where we got to here, there's a bit of nomenclature that needs tidying up here. Really, this means receptionist users. On the left here, I've got all of the subscribers, part of my estate that I can potentially uplift to become receptionists. On the right-hand side, I've got all the people that are uplifted. If I try and bring another person across, it should warn me. There we go. It will tell me that there's going to be an additional cost implication for unlocking that receptionist license. But yeah, if I OK that, they'll join that list and again become part of the group and be included in the hunt of that group and gain access to the receptionist client software. And obviously, I need to save underneath for any changes that I make. As well as defining my operators, I can then go on to define who is monitored by those operators. When we say monitored, we're talking about that presence line monitor type activity within the software client. So I can say this receptionist is going to select from this site a number of users that they are going to watch to get the present status updates for. And this is a necessary step for deploying any receptionist if they want to see those line monitors. If this box is blank, then the traffic lights within the receptionist client software will not update. They'll just all be grey. And that's perhaps something just to make the user aware of. In the rare circumstances that this is being used for very large sites, and you've got to think about that 100 user limit, then obviously whoever is in here, the traffic lights are going to update, and everybody you exclude are going to stay grey. And again, there might still be a bit of education process there. Like hunt groups, there's a weekly scheduler, so you can define open and closed type activities over the weekly period. The same as you would see for a hunt group. It's the on-closed activity is here underneath. Outside of your specified window, you decide what's going to happen here. And then going back to the queuing aspect, on the announcements tab, there are some slots here where you can upload various media so that the caller hears something while they're waiting in the queue. You've got an entrance message which they only hear once when they go in, and then you can activate estimated waiting time, their position, or just play some music or some other message just to keep them occupied. And on the advanced tab, you'll see there's an option to escape out of the queue. If this is enabled, you can choose digits which allow them to opt out of the queue. It's quite common these days to say if you'd rather not wait, you'd rather leave a message, or you'd rather go to somewhere else, press this digit to be redirected to to the busy response for the group. There's a voicemail box dedicated to the group, which you can define the email notifications for, change the PIN for, and that's pretty much it. So that's the sort of the management aspect. So once you've updated your group, you've included the receptionists that you want. Those receptionists will then receive calls that come in through this telephone number. One of the additional things, of course, I've mentioned it a few times already, is each of those receptionists get access to a special software client. So it's actually embedded within the browser. If I actually go, let's just start at the beginning. So this is a dummy user here in Phone Manager, and you'll see that on the right-hand side here, this is one of my test users, so he's got access to quite a bit. One of the things that he can do is he's a receptionist user, and therefore he can launch the receptionist client window from within Phone Manager. And if I click to launch, it authenticates them automatically, takes them straight into the receptionist dashboard, which looks like this. And this, and I guess it's, oh, what's going on here? Yes. I mentioned it last week. I had my machine rebuilt recently, so I'm still tweaking some of the settings. But here we go. So, it has two main functions. One is to facilitate some real-time call control. So you can see your calls as they flash up here on the left-hand side with some activity buttons. And the other part is to access your BroadSoft contacts, which you'll see here on the right-hand side, which you can manipulate. And also, again, there's some activity buttons. So here I've got some traffic lights and these for the presence line monitor. But this is only showing for the ones that I said I was going to monitor in SMT beforehand. All the others are unmonitored, and therefore will just stay grey. And actually, an easy sort is the favourites area as reserved for your monitored subscribers only. And if I expand on one of these, for example, you can see the activity buttons. I can call this user on their listed telephone number. I can call them on their listed extension number. I can call them on the listed mobile number, or I can click to email and email them with their listed email address. In terms of the real-time call management side, let me see what I can do here. Just bear with me. Right. Okay. So the client will activate for all calls that are set made to that user. So here I'm just dialing in from the outside world directly to the user's DDI. You can see, and if I pick it up, oh, I managed to miss that. Let me just do that again. No. Let's just do that again. Pick up a bit more quickly. There we go. So when I've got the call in session, it's telling me that it's, the clock is ticking, and I've got an activity button here to hold or to end the call, which I can do from the screen rather than from the phone itself. And you'll see simultaneously that the activity buttons here for one of my contacts have automatically updated. So in addition to call, I now have a transfer, and in fact, if I do this right, if I choose this guy with the phone sitting next to me, I can transfer, and that's done a blind transfer straight across to that guy to pick up the call. And you can see the traffic lights updated as well to show that they're busy on that call. And my console is cleared to show that I've got no calls anymore. Let's take that up. It's kind of a similar process for attended transfers. Let me just do this again. So I'm going to ring through to my receptionist. Receptionist picks up. I want to consult with Billy here. Maybe announce the call. So actually, I'm just going to trigger a separate call here to this guy. And now I've got 2 calls. Let me just hide that to choose from. Talk to this guy, and if I'm happy that I've announced and I want to send a call through, I can press transfer here, and that transfers the first one through to him, and it's gone. Again, it's showing red, so he's busy on that call. It should be a similar process for external calls. Let me see if I can reverse this without messing this up. So I can trigger a new call here. I'm going to call, actually it's Billy again, but I've just dialed him manually. Oh, obviously it does a callback call to me first. I need to answer before it joins the other end together. Okay, so that call's in session, and then I should be able to 7909 G5 3 2 5 4 missed a digit there. I should be able to press transfer, blind transfer that off the network, away it goes. And yeah, and that's that. Yeah, so pretty straightforward. Although it's not particularly pretty, I must admit to look at it, it's very, very straightforward in terms of how the activity buttons are used. Obviously, these are direct calls to the user. I'm not actually using the receptionist number, so there is a slight difference in that you'll get a simultaneous update in the client for the queue as well. So let me just dial 10928 291 121. So what should happen here is as well as getting the same flash up for the incoming call, it's confirming the set display of which group it came from, and you're also getting the queue information underneath. So if I answer this and keep that in session, let's see if I can do a second call. Okay, if you can hear that announcement there in the background. So that call's gone into the queue because my only available receptionist isn't answering, and you can see that this call is waiting here in the queue for someone to retrieve. And this will apply. You'll just see all of the waiting calls stacked up here in this box with retrieve options. So so the receptionist can review who's in those calls. Maybe it's necessary to retrieve one of those calls out of sequence, or even just to mentally prepare so that you can see what the next one coming through is going to be. There is a little bit of configuration to enable that queue watching when you first launch the client. But yeah, as a user, you opt in to subscribe to these groups here, and then from henceforth you'll get that information. That should all be in the guide as part of the step-by-step for you. So that is about as much as I was going to show you today. So that's actually, I think there's been historically there's been a bit of trepidation in some quarters regarding the receptionist as a feature, but hopefully you can see it is actually quite straightforward. I've got a few minutes left, so I'll see if I can take some questions. Let me just have a look and see what's in the box. Looks like we've got a few. So regarding the weekly scheduling of the group, I mean that's a commonality that it shares with normal hunt groups and some of the other features on BroadSoft. We only offer the weekly scheduler because those are the only tools that we get provided to us by BroadSoft for that purpose. There is something in our queue to build our own scheduler separate to BroadSoft that will give us the ability to define things like bank holidays and Christmas and so on. But that's sort of a non-trivial consideration. But I know there's been a lot of demand for that, certainly since I've been here adding clarity. So hopefully we'll see something happen with that later this year. Phone Manager is the way to launch Receptionist. Yes, that there's a bit of authentication built into that launch link, so that is really the best way to do it. Really, the only way to do it as it is at the moment. In terms of accessing other contact lists, the receptionist itself doesn't talk to any other contact repositories at the moment. There is another project in motion behind the scenes to bring that in line, so that it can access other things. If there is a requirement there, then I'd recommend taking the UC client I mentioned earlier, which actually has all those contacts or CRM integrations built in. Sadly, the UC also doesn't currently talk to the in-clarity specific contacts loaded into Phone Manager, but that's part of that same project actually to bring all three of those things in line so that the UC, Receptionist and Phone Manager repositories are actually shared and copied to each other for a better user experience. So watch this space. Okay, so the last question is, when would you choose to use the Receptionist client compared to the UC client? Well, I guess the value is that combination of monitoring, being able to see the status of a select number of users, and simultaneously being able to manipulate the calls via the screen. Though that's, let me just go back to it, where these visual cues are of relevance to the user or adding a value to that user's experience. I guess in practice, what you might find is if you're talking to a receptionist user who's maybe coming across from another PBX, another platform, they might be already used to some interface like this or have some expectation that a tool like this will be provided. Yeah, I mean that's I guess, the ideal target audience. But going back to what I was saying at the beginning of this session, I mean, yeah, a receptionist user doesn't mean that they have to use this. I mean, they say that the role and the feature are slightly separate considerations. So say if you've got a small office that, you know, with just one person fielding calls, then possibly just a VDX handset with some physical line monitors, make them part of the main number, whether it's through auto attendant or through a hunt group or what have you. It's probably enough. The UC client, its main value is that contact integration function, to be able to access not just your BroadSoft contacts, but the contacts from another repository like Salesforce, like Outlook, something like that. Okay, I've got a final question about the this client, and it's a limit of 100. The actively monitored users. So that's a limit in the software itself. The license software we take from BroadSoft. We are not aware that BroadSoft have any plans at all to change that limit or to change the way that this specific software works. I mean, really, this software is aimed at the small business. It's not as I would say it's not really an enterprise product, something to put in front of an enterprise business with hundreds of users. We are looking for potential ways to plug that gap. One thing that we are testing at the moment, which a couple of you may have seen already, is one of our partners who provides the UC clients also provides an operator client, which combines some of these call management features with the line monitor features and with the contact integration features, which is going to be a better thing to position to our customer of that size. We are looking for pilot users for that new product, which we would hope to launch quite soon. If you're interested in piloting it, testing it with us, then please let me know after the session. Okay, I think we've hit the half hour, so I think we'll call it to a close there. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I hope that was useful, and perhaps see you again next time.